stuff dialed in as far as location of the hood and stuff. I've actually got the hood secured to the hellcat, and the body secured to the hellcat back here. And when this opens and closes to the millimeter, I mean, it's exactly perfect. And I was really excited about that because the hood is bolted, is secured to a complete separate part than the cab, and the two are indexed and located in every way, up and down, back and forth, side to side. I mean, that was a huge amount of measuring and moving to get that to happen. And then now I've got to work on this area right here. So we've decided to flush fit the windshield. So I went ahead and made a frame. I just enclosed it a little bit for the landing, and it's a little fat right now. I'll be able to dial that in once I get my location. And then I've got to know kind of where this is going to sit in relationship to the hood. I've shrank this, I had to cut this cowl apart and then shrink that edge to make it match the hood now, and it's flowing. That's what all those little lines are. So everywhere I shrunk it to put that crown back in, and it's just almost perfect. And I'll dial that in even more as it goes on, but just sitting here relaxed, it matches the contour perfectly. And I may have to do a little bit on this one, so I've cut all the lip out of this one as well. And I may have to shrink it and dial it in to match the windshield. Now the windshield is pretty exact, but not 100%. So it has a little movement as well. I just got to have a good arch crown that's consistent, that's close to the two, and then blend it all together. And then the wiper system has been quite intense because I have to put a panel in there that these wiper pivots and all this transmission goes into that piece and then protrudes through this piece, which it doesn't touch this piece, and it's set back about 4 inches. So the end of that stem has to come out exactly in relationship to everything else, and that's quite a tall order. So I've kind of separated the two, and then they will go back together once I put the two together, and it'll be exactly perfect indexed on the end of the shaft here, and it has to be that way or it could rub. I've got to try to seal that off, and the system I put in there, I put a drain in there, and it'll have a seal in it. And as it stands, I've got your motor from the hellcat down in behind the fan motor, and here it is so far. I don't know if you can see that in the video, and I'll give you a closer look at that, but so far so good, and it's all working and cycling. And then I'll just extend your wires on the hellcat wiring to the hellcat motor, and then the computer and the steering column and all that will work exactly like it did in the hellcat. It'll just operate the old wiper system. All right, here's a closer look at that crown and how good that turned out. And that's just sitting there relaxed. But every one of those marks I've got on there is where I've shrunk it. Just put that crown right back in there. But back here is what I was working on yesterday, is all of this. And you can see all that monkey motion going on. Alright, here's the back side of my panel. So I had to make that. I made these tubes and the mounting plates actually secured to this piece so that they'll index exactly where they need to be, right depth perfectly, and it has to be that way. And then when these are removed, I've got enough clearance and I got a washer in there to simulate the other panel. And I'll protrude these right to the other panel on the final install, and then tack weld them in place, and then that'll be a unit that'll be perfectly indexed. It's like building a ship in a bottle, trying to come up with a way to get this stuff installed in reverse order. Because ultimately, I'm going to build all this stuff inside here and have everything welded on, and then fasten the top plate on it with welds, and it'll finish and cap it off. And then everything in there will have to be serviceable. So it's quite a deal to get all this done. And then I've got about a 4-inch stroke on the hellcat motor, and it's going to be about right in here. And then you can see how this is going to work. So because this will just cycle around in circles, and then that's going to stroke that 4 inches. And get a closer look at this. And then I'll finish up. Once I know all this works, I'll weld all that solid and make all that work. But yeah, that's what I'm doing now. And inside here, I'm going to have to build boxes in here so that these hinges will actually be in the engine bay compartment and sealed off from this area. I had to put those pivots back so far because of the rake of the hood and the hinge and all that. It had to go into the cowl. But that way I could pull this off with these nice looking hinges and lift cylinders. and then box all that back in, get my fresh air vent in. You can see where the hellcat motor, I've just got it sitting right here for now, and it's cycling real good right there, and plug it right back in. And my air vent, I've retained this top plenum that goes onto that, and plug all that back up. And yeah, I was really stoked about being able to get that motor so far back. And then you can see how this is striking on the blower, and it is actually secured to the hellcat separate of the body, and each one of those pivot points has to be to the millimeter of exact location in relationship to that body in height and everything for it, and then it come down to strike perfectly around the blower. It's a long day today, but I've got a lot done in this area. I'm trying to fab and design all these pieces and make it where I can still remove it and then weld and clean all this up and then put it back in, then put the top plate on it. So I want to give you a close look at how all this has come along. You can see all those pieces I've made, and I've kept all this removable, and I'll take it all out and weld it all as one. But and your wiper motor is hid underneath here, and it's accessible from underneath. I got everything where all the nuts will stay in place, and you just remove the bolts and slide it out of the original bracket, and you can service it, and it will come out in between all this stuff here. So it was like building a ship in a bottle, but it's turned out real nice. Got another piece to make over there, and then I'll make your pockets here for the hood hinges, and then make a drain system for all that where that cow area is, and then you'll have I'll put a screen over that for your fresh air intake. And yeah, so far so good. Give you a look inside how it's looking. Once this is all said and done, you won't even be able to tell. This piece will look a factory. And where's your wiper motor? You can hardly see it in there, but there's the wiper motor in there. Alright, I want to give you a quick look at how the cowl area is coming out. So far so good. I've made all this, formed and made all of this, and your vent and splash shield, and I've got it ready to receive this piece. I'm just doing a mock-up, so I set everything back up where it sits perfectly, and then I've got to locate this piece in there. But I've got to build some boxes in there for the hinges and stuff, because they will actually be in the engine bay, so that the hood will come off. The hood will be a little hard to get off, just because of where these are located. They're actually going to be inside the cowl area, but in a little area that will be in the engine bay. But that turned out pretty nice. A lot of work there, a lot going on. You can see how those body lines are. So we're still in the game. The blower fits in the hole perfectly.